Okay, I think we're live. Yay. All right. Welcome. Welcome everyone. Sorry I had to sorry if I messed your schedule up. I know we were going to do this about 12 hours later. And I hope that those of you who plan to show up live are have the opportunity to do it this morning rather than this evening. I got invited to do some Veterans Day things with a couple of my fellow military veterans. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to represent the I'm going to represent the Navy, and one of my friends is representing the Air Force, and another friend is representing the Army. So um, we are going to have a great afternoon. And but I wanted to make sure that I got this in before I go off into another whole stratosphere, because this is so important. First of all, before I forget, I want to acknowledge, for those of you who follow the significance, the metaphysical and energetic significance of numbers and dates, that today is November 11th, 2018. So this is kind of an 11-11-11 year or day. And 1s are power numbers, signifying new beginnings. And the way I got 11-11-11 is that if you add 2018 together, 2, 1, 8, 8, 10, 11. So that's 11 as well. So that's how I got 11-11-11. 1s are power numbers. And 11s are double power numbers. And this is, if you want to tap into the energy and the meaning of that and bring that meaning into your experience today, this is a time when you have the opportunity to create something new for yourself in a very, very powerful way. And I would venture to guess, or to stretch that a little and say that as we come together as a group and we work with our topic today, that we will be creating a new energy, a new opportunity for others, just by the way that we shift ourselves and how that affects those around us. And by creating this container that others can come to, this place. I kind of like to visualize it as kind of a lounge where we're all sitting around, or a healing room, or something like that, where we raise a vibration and set the frequency in the room for other people to come and join us and benefit from it and add to it. So I appreciate those of you who are on live. If you want to chat in and just say hi, that would be great. And if you just want to kind of follow along, that's fine as well. If you don't have water, or this is green tea, if you don't have something yummy and liquid to hydrate your body with, I encourage you to go and get that. Let me take a sip here before we get started. Okay, going to bring that down a little. It's a little hot. I love these these wide mouth canning jars because they can withstand the heat of tea. Hello, Portsmouth, New Hampshire. R. Ann Rousseau. Awesome. I love Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Been there many, many times when I lived in Rhode Island. Well, maybe not many, many times, but the times I went were kind of magical. So I love Portsmouth. Awesome. So today's topic is about mistakes, errors, miscommunications. And if you saw the video before the one where I was saying we changed the time, you know that this was kind of prompted by some experiences that I've had. And if you know anything about human design, you'll know right away when I tell you that I'm a 3-5. I have a 3-5 profile that I'm here to discover what doesn't work And those of you who have a 3 in your profile, if you have your chart handy, you want to take a look, you'll see the little 3 up at the top of the up at the like little exponent numbers on your I Ching hexagram numbers coming down on either side of the planetary, how they're set planetarily with the planetary energy. And if you have a lot of 3s, even if you have a lot of 5s in your profile, um, you can really get into a place where you're taking in not taking in necessarily, but you're experimenting, you're experiencing, you're doing the, I guess Ra Uru, who used to say the trial and error experience, and even if you are in your 20s and you have a lot of 6s in your chart or a 6 in your profile, it's the same kind of thing. It's all about experiencing, and this is what we kind of this is kind of what we're here to engage with as we move through life. But the topic of making mistakes and errors and having miscommunications and needing to recover from that and get the wisdom from that is universal, because we all do it. We're all humans. We're all fallible. We're all you know, subject or vulnerable at times to projecting things that may not be accurate, and then making assumptions and moving on that. Or we're all susceptible sometimes to moving too quickly, um, and overlooking something, or just making a mistake. And mistake is not a judgmental term in this case. I just don't have a better word for it. If you have ever had a human design reading and you have a 3 in your profile, you probably heard that you've never made a mistake in your life. And I really live by that. But what I came to understand in this last big error and miscommunication that kind of prompted this this whole topic today is that sometimes we get, or at least I do, get into these feedback loops where the same theme and the same kind of pattern comes up over and over. And sometimes, especially if you know this about yourself, that you kind of find out what doesn't work before you find out what works. You can kind of just brush it off and go, oh, there we go again. There I am again at this place. And you don't, and that is almost as debilitating in terms of gaining your wisdom from that and learning lessons from that, as it is when you take it in and you really blame yourself and you don't get over it. So I'm just curious about those of you who've had experiences, or that's kind of on the top of your plate right now, what your experience is of having repeated patterns of miscommunication or errors. And that's my cat back there opening the door. The dog's over here. Errors, or what you would call mistakes, or lessons to learn. I'm just wondering if you've identified any sort of common themes or patterns, or if anything actually is up for you in terms of that. If you've recently experienced something and it's bringing this awareness to the forefront, that maybe you want to take a look at this so that you can get over what it is, integrate the wisdom, and move on, or move into the next phase of your life, or take the next steps from a place of greater wisdom and awareness, and understanding of how you don't have to repeat that same mistake or error again. So, you know, yeah, those are big ones. Romantic partners, work, money, they're all repeating patterns. So what I want to do today is give you, or take you through, kind of a template or a process, um, where you can do this when whenever something comes up that's kind of a sticking point for you, where you've sort of uh, you're kind of like, oh, here this is again. What's this about? How do I get over it? And this will help you to kind of excavate your what you need to be aware of first of all, and then integrate the wisdom that you need to get from it so that you can move on to the next phase. um, yeah, I think you really those are like the three main things: romantic partners, work, and money. And if you looked at that one video about my experience, that's the money one was mine. It was a huge thing. And the underlying for me is that sometimes um, I don't have a lot of detail in my chart. So sometimes I don't, and I'm a 3-5. So there's the experimental part, and then there's kind of the projection part where sometimes I assume things that aren't really real or accurate. And I had a miscommunication that almost cost us um, $10,000 or something like that. It all worked out in the end. It all got together. The communication got smoothed out. We didn't lose the 10,000. But it was a big wake up call in terms of how I need to pay attention and what it is I need to kind of get over to pay more attention and be more mindful about the fact that I don't have detail in my chart, and I need to slow down and make sure I'm not assuming things or misreading things or mishearing things even. That's a big one when you have a lot of fives in your chart, and making sure that what comes out of my mouth is what I really mean. So let's just go ahead and settle into to just our presence here with each other. And if you want to close your eyes or get comfortable wherever you are, that's great. At the beginning, if you weren't on, I suggested that you get something to drink because we're moving energy. We're amplifying intention and energy together, and hopefully we're changing and retuning things in our systems, and that requires some liquid. So so it requires hydration. Okay, let me look at my notes so we get to what I want to do here. So the purpose of making these so-called mistakes is um, is what gaining the wisdom of what not to do. Gaining the wisdom of, okay, I've been there, I did that. Note to self, uh, do it this way the next time, or say this the next time, or be in this space the next time that happens. And a lot of times, especially for those of you who are 3-5s, 1-3s, 6-3s, those of you who have that three experimental energy as prominent in your being, that what not to do is often for other people. So that may be a reason why patterns continue to repeat, because it's really something that you go through that other people observe. And yeah, sometimes they may ask you, what do I need to do in this case? And you can say, hey, I did that. Don't do that way. But sometimes they're just watching you and going, boy, I'm not going to do it that way next time. But I really feel like there are times when you can, if you are, there are certain things that you're going to do or you're more susceptible to doing because of the way that you're designed and the themes that you're working out. But there are times when you can bring mindfulness to your experience and awareness to your experience so that you really know what not to do the next time, because we're not meant to suffer and go over and over and over things, and we're not meant to get stuck in things that we need to change or to experience in a different way. So when we are experiencing things over and over, mistakes, making mistakes, the same mistakes over and over and over again, it causes us a lot of unnecessary suffering. It can affect our self-esteem. We can get really down on ourselves, and we can have this experience where we don't really fully get to have the full wisdom from the experience. So that's what we're going to be working on. And also, I didn't mention, but if you have a piece of paper with you and a pen or a pencil, that would be really helpful at this point. So go ahead and get that, or, just if you just want to watch and come back and do it again, that's fine too. I encourage you to do this over and over when you get into those little feedback loops, so that you can kind of move through things rather than to stay stuck in them. Okay, so what we're going to start with is finding and integrating the wisdom fragments, and finding and discovering the collateral damage that is caused by things that don't really work out. And she said, you say, are they really mistakes or just inherent energy patterns? Some of them are energy patterns. However, we're meant to evolve. Even our chart, is the themes that we carry in the gates and channels of our chart. We can experience the low expression, and we can experience the higher expression of it. And when we're stuck in the lower frequencies of choosing the wrong partners, or ending up in overworking, or doing things that just aren't correct for the way that we need to use our energy, or in patterns where we're constantly worried about money, or challenged by finances, there are probably fragments of things that need to be integrated and understood, so that you can live the higher level of those energy patterns, as opposed to staying stuck in the lower levels of those patterns. So that's what we're going to work on. I like to put my hand on my heart. So just get comfortable and take a few deep breaths. And let's just imagine that we're in a lounge together, in a room together. And as we come together in this circle of energy, of connection, feel yourself, first of all, grounded, connected to the earth that supports you. And then move that energy of connection to the earth up through your body, into your heart, into your head space, up through the top of your head, as though there were a beam or a shaft that allows light to move up and down from the top of your head all the way up. Follow that all the way up to the edges of your human consciousness. There may be a ceiling there, or clouds. Allow that to open, and allow higher consciousness to come in through that shaft, moving it all the way down into your head space, your throat, your heart, your stomach, your lower belly, down your legs, your feet into the earth. And then anchor all of that deeply into your place on planet Earth. And as that energy moves up and down, let it move through your heart and fill your heart space. Now, if you have a pencil or a pen and you want to take some notes, go ahead. Or if you just want to experience this through your body, you can put your hand on your heart. Take some deep breaths. What came to me when I was putting this together is the image of being in a playroom where we pull out all of our toys, we pull out all kinds of different things to experience and experiment with, and they're all over the floor. So it's now time to clean up the playroom, to clean up our playground of experience. And you're going to see or imagine, you can imagine if you want, a box. And this box is the box, known as the wisdom box. It's the box where you're going to gather everything from the floor, from the ground in your playroom that has to do with wisdom. And if you're writing things down, this is where you can begin to take some notes, because we're going to actually put things in the box in a certain order. So think of or tap into an experience that you really want to work with at this time, whether it's a repeating pattern or an actual experience that you either haven't quite been able to get over, or that you're still kind of wanting to work with because you know that it's part of a larger pattern, something that could be perceived as a mistake or an error or a miscommunication. So the first layer of things we're going to put in the box are going to be the layers of things that we need to take responsibility for. And responsibility in this case doesn't mean like you're blaming yourself or anything. It could even mean that the other person may be the one that's actually at fault, but because you of the interaction, there's a sense of it takes two. There's a place where you can stand and gain more power by being or taking responsibility for your part. So this, I want you to try to work with this as a neutral kind of a thing. And if you're writing this down, or if you're looking at, whether you're writing it down or looking at the toys on the floor, look around and identify by acknowledging to yourself, I did X, Y, Z. And if you're writing it down, you can say, I did whatever it is, or I experienced whatever it is. And if you want to neutralize that even more, like if I did doesn't seem to resonate because maybe it was something that you really feel was the other person's fault, you can say, I had this experience. I was a player in this game. And you can describe a little bit about what that was in your heart or on paper. And then if you're ready to move on to the next layer, like as you're, let's go back to this box imagery. As you're acknowledging, I had this experience, or I did X, Y, and Z, imagine that you're putting those pieces in the bottom of your box. And when you have all of those pieces in, or when you've been writing it down, you're done writing it on paper, we're going to go to the next level of things you're putting in the box, or the next level of understanding that allows you to fill this place of wisdom. And this one is the pieces that happen, the things that happened as a result of the experience you had, the things that you did, those kinds of things. So if you're writing this down, you can write, as a result of the experience, this happened, XYZ happened. And you can write that down, or you can look around on your floor and just pick up the pieces of what happened, the results of what happened because of this experience. And just put those in the box or write it down on paper. And this is something that you can flesh out over time, because when you stand in that place where you're really fully, you know, in that place of your full groundedness in your awareness of your place in the experience, other awarenesses will start to come out over time. And so you may be out for a walk or driving to work, and you'll kind of get a flash sometimes on, what, oh, well, that might have affected this person in that way. Or I was really affected and by this, and as a result of that experience, this is why I'm having this experience. So you don't have to get it all out now. You don't have to get all the pieces in the box now. This is just opening you up to this process of taking responsibility, becoming aware of the results. And when you have all of that filled in your box, then see if you can identify any repeating patterns. And this is another one of those things where it may come to you over time. I see the results of that particular experience in my life and other people's lives, and this seems to be a pattern that I can describe or understand as this. And you can, if you see those patterns already, you can take those pieces and put them in your box or write them down on paper. Okay, so imagine now that you're ready to pack this box up, and you have a little marker in your hand, or you can even write on your paper if you want, or doodle. And you're just going to label this box wisdom. This is my wisdom. Now there may be some other pieces on the floor. So take the wisdom box and put it somewhere where you really can get to it, where you can see it and understand what's in it. pull it out if you need to at certain points. But you may see other pieces on the floor now that you've cleared all that away. And these are the pieces that are going to go in your junk box. So there's another box. You can label junk. If you're writing this out, you can just start a new page or a new section labeled junk. And in the junk box, you're going to put anything that brings up blame, shame, regret, because these are the things that keep us in those that feedback loop of, oh, I wish I didn't do it that way, um, um, or it could be blame for other people. It could be blame for yourself. It could be blame for other people. If they hadn't done this, then I wouldn't have done that. Or it's all my fault. I really I do this over and over and over again, and I'm just a terrible person. Or those feelings of shame that may be deep within your being, in your cellular structure, that don't even have words. And at this point, this is, I'm diverging a little, but this is what's coming up. Those places where you feel like deep shame, and you know what it is, what it's about, because it will come up in your awareness like you're trying to hide something. I just want to uh, share what's coming up about shame right now. Shame actually may not be yours. The origins of it may not be yours. And if you have done any work with your ancestral lineage and stuff, you may be aware that you're carrying shame in your cells, in your consciousness, that you inherited from your ancestral line. If your mother or your father carried shame, you may carry shame as well. So I just want you to acknowledge that, like when you catch yourself trying to cover up, or to sometimes shame is at the root of blaming other people. Shame is at the root of blaming yourself, or being really down and depressed about yourself. Um, it may not actually all be yours. So where are we going to go with that? Because I actually didn't anticipate that awareness coming up. So at this point, I just want you to open that junk box. You may already have junk in it that you've worked on. So, and that's great. But if you're resonating with this and you're feeling like there are with this particular experience, you have a lot of regret, or a lot of things that you don't want people to know about, or it has severely affected your self-esteem, or even mildly affected your self-esteem. Those are the pieces that are laying on the floor for you to put into your junk box. So as you acknowledge that, whatever those are, go into your heart, if you don't know what that is right offhand, and just breathe into your heart and feel that, what it feels like to be in this repeating pattern of mistakes, of this theme that either repeats itself, or this incident that happened. And tell yourself, or ask yourself, how do I feel about this? Where is the sticking point for me that needs to go in the junk box? And if you're writing it down, you can write out your regrets. And also, if there's someone else that you're blaming for this, write that out too. There's no judgment about this. If you're in that place where you know that somebody else instigated this, and you feel like this is not your fault, write that down, because that's all part of that junk energy. That even if it's something that someone deliberately did to you, you still need to put that in the junk box. Yeah, and, Joe, yeah, and also guilt. Guilt. Where do you have guilt? That's part of the junk box. That's part of that stuff that keeps you in the loop. And again, this is a process where we're just opening it up so that you can see more right now. And as you move through this time, or when you get into places where you're reflecting or meditating or just doing the dishes, other things may come up, other awarenesses, and you can stop, maybe put your hand on your heart, acknowledge what you feel, and imagine that you're putting it in the junk box. Okay, so here's what we're going to do with the junk box. And you can have another junk box at a different time, but we're going to actually burn this junk box. So I take that box and put it in your heart. You may already feel it in your heart. But take that guilt, that shame, that blame, that judgment, what all that stuff that you've put in the box. And just for a little bit here, just allow yourself to just feel the weight of that in your heart. Take some deep breaths so that you can expand your heart around the box. And sometimes what can happen when you're feeling guilt, regret, you'll have like a sinking feeling in your stomach. If you feel that, you can put a hand on, like, over your solar plexus, just below your heart. And I really want you, even if you're not feeling that, to tap into the solar plexus area and take some deep breaths, because the solar plexus, the physical solar plexus, we're not talking about the solar plexus on the human design chart, where it is physically, has the ability to move air through the lungs, which keeps the heart healthy and pumping fresh blood. And you can imagine this, or look at the solar plexus as the place where you stoke the fires of what it is you need to clear. So as you breathe in deep into your solar plexus, inhaling and exhaling, imagine that you have billows that are stoking the fires that are moving up into your heart space. And your box is right, that junk box is right on the fire. Keep moving that fire, keep building that fire. And imagery really helps you with this. So just imagine that the solar plexus is getting hotter and hotter. And this is an alchemical process of taking what's stuck deep in your being and transmuting it, transforming it into the sacred fire that moves your passions. So all of this junk is in the way of what can really move your energy and move your passions. And this breath that you're taking in, these inhales and these exhales as they stoke your inner fire, are helping you to burn up that junk so that you can free your energy to move through your body, so you can free your fire, your sacred fire. And have a more elevated experience the next time of these themes that you live out that allow you to have all of this wisdom. And then just imagine that box just dissolving. And as it's dissolving, the sacred fire is it feels like love. It feels like that divine um, force that created us and animates us. And if you want, you can imagine that column opening up and getting wider and wider, that column to that higher consciousness beyond the consciousness of your humanity. And it's coming in and it's mixing with this internal fire that you have moving. And it's elevating you as this box of junk disintegrates. It's elevating you into the wisdom, into embodying the wisdom that you're here to embody from these experiences. So now let that fire sort of die down so that they're just kind of like warm coals in your solar plexus. And allow that warmth to just fill you up. Bring it down into your lower belly, into your torso, into your legs, your feet, and down into the ground. So that the earth beneath your feet that supports each of your steps is warm and welcoming, inviting, so that you can feel as though there's really no separation between what you feel inside and the support that you get. It's all just warm, it's all glowing. Then move that heat, that warmth up, back up through your legs. You know, you're not moving it up as in pulling it out of the earth. You're just expanding that warmth back up through your torso, your shoulders, your arms, your hands, your neck, your throat, so that your words, your expression is warmed by the wisdom of your experiences. And let it come up into your head space, into your smile, into your eyes, so you can see with warmth, into the place, if you imagine on your chart, your ajna, which is the data bank for your body and your body's experiences. You're going to warm your design crystal. And don't worry about it if you don't know what I'm talking about, if you just tuned in. You're warming your experiences that you've had through your human experiences that you've had, warming them up, softening them up with this heat that's left over from the fire that you created to burn out the junk. And just allow that to penetrate into your mental acknowledgement of your experience. And then allow it to come up into your crown and just circulate up in the top of your head as though you're creating a softer space in your crown for higher wisdom to penetrate. And then just breathe through this warmth. Breathe and acknowledge that you are wise, that you can go back and burn more junk if you want at another point. You can go back and add more to your wisdom box. But you don't have to suffer through the same level of experience that created that thing that you learned from. It's now, the wisdom of that is now fully integrated into your being. So if you've been writing these things down, or if you go back through this again with other issues, other experiences, and you want to write it down, one of the things you can do with this, this part where you're burning the junk box, is that you can actually take that piece of paper and burn it. A good time to do that, if you work with the energies of the moon, is at the full moon, where supposedly you can let go of things. The energy is there to support you for letting go. So you can continue to work with this and do that if you want. That's a physical action that you can do, where you can acknowledge that I've been there, I've done that, I gained the wisdom, and I'm ready to let go of the guilt, the junk, the blame, the shame, that where it was maybe being fed by shame that wasn't even mine. Now, just take a deep breath. Come back into your being here, into the room with the rest of us. And we have one more box, and we have enough time, so that's good. There's one more box in the playroom. You have your wisdom box, you've burned your junk box. Now there's an action box that you want to, actually there's stuff in the action box that you want to take out, so that you can do things to ground this new level of wisdom into your experience. I mean, it's great to do the visualizations. It's great to write down on paper, and that's actually an action as well. But it's even more powerful, and it makes it more real in your human experience when you take an action that that grounds this new integration of a physical, real life action. So go ahead and open up your action box. And if you're writing this down on paper and you're not working with the imagery of the boxes, you're going to ask yourself, as you're opening up this awareness, where do I need to make amends or make it right with other people? Because you've burned the junk, you've burned the guilt, you've burned the whatever it is. So you're free of that. But we started with responsibility, of it being in relationship to a situation or to other people, and having something not go as planned and having negative feelings about it means that there is some kind of responsibility, even just the responsibility of acknowledging that it happened. So now there may be actions that you need to take in the real physical world, in the world of relationship, in the world of maybe even relationship to yourself, that helps to reinforce the empowered aspects of being responsible for your experiences. So let's say you've burned through your guilt. You've burned through, that you put the guilt junk and all of that in the box. Um, Now there's an action that you can probably take at this point to reinforce that you're free of guilt, or to reinforce that you are fully responsible for your experiences, and uh, you no longer have that guilt in your reality. That's an example. Or if there's something that you did, if there was a miscommunication, and maybe you had, let's say, an argument with someone, and you're having feelings that that may not have been the best thing, and that is a repeating pattern, there may be someone that you need to go back and talk to and make amends with. So go into your heart, go into your action box, and pull out what actions you need to take to make it right in your world, to make it right in your situation, to make it right with you, to acknowledge you. And then also in this box are the things that you will do in the future. Now that you have all of this wisdom, the actual real life things that you will do for yourself when these situations with this particular theme comes up again. So what will you do differently? What actions are you going to take that will bring you into an elevated place, um, because because the guilt and the regret and all of that stuff is over with, you know, and you have the opportunity when a similar situation comes up to take a different action, to take a different stance, and that will get you in the wavelength of a higher experience of that particular theme that you're working with. So if you want to share your actions, that would be great. You can chat it in the chat box. What are you going to do differently? I know for me, getting back to that one experience that brought up this exercise, I it really uh, brought home the need for me to be more mindful in my communications. And what happened in that situation is that my mind was somewhere else, and this situation came up. Um, and because I was wanting to get back to where I was engaged over here, I really didn't stop to disengage and pay 100% attention to what I was doing. So for me, the new action in this situation, especially with money, that was the issue that came up. The prospect of losing money or wasting money, or the management of money. Um, Needs my full attention that's not split somewhere else. I need to be very mindful and in an exclusive space of focus around uh, money transactions. So that's my new action. When that theme of communicating about money and the movement of money in my life, of my finances, comes up, I put everything else aside and I do just that. So, what's your new action? You can write it down if you want. Um, you can share it. And you can also go through this exercise over and over. So it was the exercise of taking first, gaining the wisdom by number one, acknowledging responsibility. That yes, it happened. Yes, you were a player in the experience without blaming yourself, blaming others. This is what happened. I did X, Y, and Z. I chose X, Y, and Z. I didn't do X, Y, and Z. That's what happened. Number two of filling your wisdom box is this was the result. As a result of what happened, the experience I had, X, Y, and Z happened. And then number three is what I learned. And I learned this, this, and this. So that's the wisdom piece. And then what's left, if you have been going through this over and over again, is the junk of the regret. Oh, I wish this didn't happen. I wish I had done it differently. If I had only turned left instead of right, if I had only looked up instead of down. I do this over and over. Why does this always keep happening in this same way? I want to hide what I did. That's that shame piece that we talked about. And that reaction may not even have anything to do with reaction may have been inherited, but whatever it is, you put that in your junk box and you burn it so that you're left with the box of your wisdom. And then you take concrete actions into your life, into the next steps of your life, with free of the guilt, free of the shame, free of the blame, free of the regrets. The next time, if it's a repeating pattern, if it's something that you're working with over and over because it's part of your chart, the next time your experience, you will have an experience at a higher level and you will be out of that feedback loop of, oh, I made that same mistake over and over and over again. I'm making it again. And, you will be at a different level because you made a different choice or took a different action. Well, that's awesome. She says, I'm pretty responsible, no regrets, blame, or shame. I live in the present moment. I don't let my mind go and accept what is. So if you're finding that you have repeating patterns, then that's where you really want to look at your chart. Look at some of the conundrums and the themes in your chart that you're working with, because you're already at that place where you don't necessarily need to you don't have a junk box necessarily. So now you can say, okay, well, what's the highest expression? Where am I living with this theme that keeps coming up? Am I in this place where it kind of kicks me in the shins every time it comes up? And what's a higher expression of that? Am I reacting in a way that's a lower expression, or is there a higher expression that I can resonate with so that I don't feel like I'm getting kicked in the shins every time it comes up? So it will then be like, oh, there's that pattern again. There's that experience again. Oh, I learned what didn't work that time, or whatever that is. And you don't have necessarily, if you're living in the present moment, all of that other stuff that is pretty much junk. So that's where, this what this exercise was about, was to get you on that playing field so that when repeating patterns come up, when different dilemmas and different experiences come up, instead of experiencing um, the things that bring you down, you can experience the things that evolve you. You can take a different step in a direction, and say, oh, there it is again. Okay, so I need to reconcile this and live at this higher awareness about it. So it looks like we have come to the end of the hour. Um, Thank you guys so much for participating. I hope you got some good things to work with during this time. We'll see what comes up in another 2 weeks ish. I, being a splenic projector, sometimes things come up. I really appreciate you guys being flexible and coming on this morning instead of the afternoon or evening. Um, yeah, okay. Joe, Define Crown and Ajna 6447 channel, find it difficult to forget. Action to be more mindful and meditate. Awesome. Yeah. And with a defined head and ajna, uh, those of you who have that and you're trying to meditate, it may help you to actually lay back and lay down and meditate, because the neutrino streams hit you in a different way. I find that very helpful with my head and ajna, defined head and ajna. Either that, or I have a video about um, uh, quieting your mind by holding your hands right here. So that may help you a lot if you have that definition, because you're always radiating and engaged in life, or engaged in thought. Great. Well, thank you guys. Awesome. Yeah, the replay will be up. I'm going to finish my tea. I've come to the end of my talking time. And we've got a change in season. So if I sound a little bit hoarse, it's because of that. It got really cold last night. So have a wonderful rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are in the world. Until the next time, be well. Keep burning your junk boxes and keep having higher experiences of your repeating patterns. Awesome. So have a great time, and there will be more to come.